Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is Rob with Diligent Dev, and today we're going to be doing a little web scraping using C#. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Craigslist and look for web development gigs that we might be able to apply to and supplement our income with some freelance jobs. To get started, we're going to be using Scrapey Sharp. I will leave a link to the GitHub repo in the description below, and you can go there, check it out, and look at their README. The next thing we're going to be installing, if you don't have it installed already, is the .NET Core SDK. I am on a Mac. You might be on a Windows. Go ahead and download this and get it installed. If you don't already have it installed, also install Visual Studio Code, and that's what we will be using for our code editor. So what I've done is I've created a blank folder in my Documents folder and opened it using Visual Studio Code. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go here and open a new terminal. And we're going to type in .NET new console. And what this is going to do is it's going to go and create a new console app for us automatically. If we go ahead and look at the files we have here, we've got our project file and we have a program CS, and this will be the main file that runs our scraper. Now what we need to do, if you don't already have it installed, is go to extensions, type in C# and go ahead and install this extension. Once that's installed, we'll go to our debugger and you'll see that it's already set up for .NET Core to launch the console. But if you don't have this, go ahead and click this button. You should get a drop down, select .NET Core, and you'll get this file. The only thing we're going to change inside of this file is instead of using the internal console, we're going to use the external terminal. And I'm on a Mac, so it might be a little bit different. You just want to launch your command prompt or terminal on your computer. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and run it and see what it does. So mine's running, and you can see that it printed hello world, as that is the only code that is in program.cs at the moment. Now that we have the project set up and our debugger, let's go ahead and add Scrapey Sharp. So what we're going to do is go back to the terminal, and we're going to type .NET add package Scrapey Sharp. And what that did is it pulled in the NuGet package so that we can use it inside of our project. Okay, now that we've added the Scrapey Sharp NuGet package, let's go ahead and import some dependencies that we'll be using in our project. So at the top, under using system, we'll type using system.collections.generic. We'll also use HTML agility pack, Scrapey Sharp.extensions, and Scrapey Sharp.network. Now that we have our dependencies, let's go ahead and create a global variable that we're going to be using for scraping. So right underneath your class and above your main method, let's type static scraping browser underscore scraping browser, and set that to a new scraping browser. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and create a function that's going to return us the HTML from a given page. So static HTML node get HTML, and we'll go ahead and pass it a string of URL. Inside of this method, we will create a web page and set that equal to the scraping browser dot navigate to page. This takes in a URI, and that URI will pass in the URL. And then what we'll do is we will return the web page.html. So now that we have that, we're going to get rid of this console.writeLine hello world and we will pass it get HTML, and right now we'll just set it to an empty string. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our browser. I have gone to the New York Craigslist computer gig, so I'll kind of show you how I got here. This is the main New York Craigslist, and underneath gigs I just went to computer, and we'll go ahead and copy that out, and we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code and put that in there. All right, so at this point, we may as well run the program to see what kind of HTML is being returned and make sure everything's working. So I'm going to go ahead and set a breakpoint on our return statement in the get HTML and go ahead and run it. So it's hit our breakpoint. We'll see we have the web page and the HTML, and it looks like we're getting some good results from that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write another method, and this method is going to return a list of string. And we're going to go ahead and call it get main page links. And we're also going to pass this a URL. So we're going to say var homepage links equals a new list of string. And this is where we're going to store all of those URLs to all the different Craigslist listings. So you'll see them all right here. The next one we're going to do is we're going to get the HTML from each link. So HTML equals, we'll use our get HTML function, and we'll pass it a URL. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set a variable, we'll call it links, and we'll set it equal to the HTML that we returned, and we're going to look for a specific CSS selector on that. And we're going to look for all of the anchor tags on the page. So that should go ahead and grab us all of the links that are on the page. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write a for each. And we're going to say for var link in links. And inside of this, we're going to write an if statement. We're going to say if link dot attributes, and say we want the attribute href dot value dot contains, and we're going to say dot html. So basically what we're doing here is we're grabbing all of the links or all the anchor tags, and we're taking the attribute of the href off of those anchor tags and seeing if it contains a .html extension. Now the reason we're doing this is because there's going to be a lot of links returned off the page that are not links to gigs. This ensures that we're going to a link or a gig page. Sorry. So after we have that, we will say homepage links dot add link dot attributes href. And that's got to be in quotations, and we'll just grab the value and put it in there. So to reiterate, all this is doing is going and grabbing all of the links, and then it's getting the href off of each link, which is the URL that's on an anchor tag. And the last thing we need to do is return homepage links. So let's go ahead and replace our get HTML up here with the get made page links method. Oops. Let's copy that. V. And let's go ahead and put a breakpoint on the homepage links and run the console and see what it's returning. So we have homepage link here in our variables, and you'll see there's 240, and they're all going to gigs. So we're going to go ahead and stop the console. And now we're going to write a method to get the page details off of each individual gig page. So if we go back to our browser, let's say we click on one of these. What we want to do is grab the title and the description from each gig. So in order to do that, at the bottom of this file, underneath your second to last curly brace, we're going to write a new class. And we're going to call this public class page details. And inside of this class, we're going to have three properties. So if you type prop and then hit tab, it's going to go ahead and create a property for you. And we'll just call this one string title. We'll create another property below this one. We'll call it another string, and we'll call this one description. And we'll create one more property, and we'll set that to a string, and this one will be URL. If I can type. There we go. All right, so now that we have that, right above our getHTML method, I'm going to write another method, and this is going to be a static list of page details, and it'll be called get page details, and we'll pass it a list of string, and that will be URLs. All right, so first let's create a list of page details. And now that we have that, we're going to loop through each URL and grab the details from each page. So we'll say for each var URL in URLs. We'll say var HTML node equal to get HTML, and we will pass it the URL. So if you remember, all that's doing is passing us back the HTML in node elements. Then we'll say var page details. Didn't want to capitalize that. Page details equal to new page. Page details. So we're setting up a new object. So now what we want to grab is the page title. So we'll say page details.title is equal to the HTML node that we grabbed earlier, the owner document of that, and the document node. So basically we're at the root element of the page. And then we'll say select single node. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass it an XPath. So we'll say // HTML/head/title. And then we'll go to the end and we'll say dot inner text. And the way that I got that was, let me go back to the browser. We will right click and hit inspect. You'll see that the root of our XPath is the HTML, and then I drilled down into the head, and then I went to the title that is right here. Now we need to grab the description. So I'm going to set a variable of description. I'm going to set that equal to HTML node.ownerDocument.document node.select single node. And we're going to pass this another XPath. So we'll say // we'll go to the root element of the document. Then we will go into the body. We will drill down into a section. Drill down into another section. Into another section. And finally into another section. And then we will take the inner text out of that section. So just to make sure that everything is working, I'm going to set a breakpoint here. We're going to take this get page details. We are going to set a variable and set it to main links. And then we're going to call get page details, and we are going to pass it main links. So we should be good to run this. I'm going to take the debugger off of this. For some reason, this is not liking this. Get page details. It wants me to return page details. All right, so we'll see we have a title here. We're going to go ahead, skip this line, and make sure that we get a description here. So now you see that we have the description and this XPath that we got here. Just to reiterate what we're doing, I will go back to the dev tools. We will close the head. So we went from HTML to body, then we went into another section, and then we went into another section and another section. And in this last section, you'll see that now we have the description that we're looking for. So essentially what you have to do is just keep drilling down into the different elements that are inside of the HTML. I went ahead and reran the debugger and put a breakpoint here because the reason we set this description equal to a variable instead of directly setting the page details is because we want to get rid of this stuff up front here. So we're going to grab this ugly text and we're going to copy it. We're going to come down here. We're going to stop the debugger. And I'm going to say page details dot description equals description dot replace. And we're going to paste in this text that we have here. And then we're just going to replace it with a blank string. And then the last thing we need to do is set the page URL equal to the URL and add our page details to our list of page details. All right. So what we're going to do is go ahead and run this. This is going to take a second, but I'm going to go ahead and run it and show you the results that we get. So I'll be back once this is done running. Scraper is finished running. Let's go ahead and look at our list of page details. So if we open it up and we open up the first element in there and let's expand this, you're going to see we have a good description, we have a good title, and a good URL. But you'll also notice that we have 240 of them. Now, if you've ever been on Craigslist, you know there's a lot of spammy stuff and you got to filter through all of it. So this would really do us no good. It would save us no time if we were looking for gigs. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a filter to it. Up in our main method, we are going to write the following code. We'll say console.writeLine. Say please enter a search term. And right after that, we'll take a console read line, which will allow us to enter some text in, and we will set that equal to our search term. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and pass this search term to our get page details. So we'll come down here, we'll say string search term. And now that we have that set up, before we add anything, let's create a variable that's something like search term in title and set that equal to page details dot title dot contains search term. And to make this a little bit better, let's take the title and make it 2 lower, and also take the search term and take it 2 lower. That way we'll ignore casing on it. And we'll create another one, and we'll call it search term in description. And we'll say page details dot description dot 2 lower to ignore casing dot contains search term dot 2 lower. So basically what this is doing is it's checking to see if our search term is in the title, and this one is checking to see if the search term is in the description, and you'll see that this is a Boolean. So what we can do is we can say if search term in title or search term is in the description, then we'll go ahead and add this to our details page. So I'm going to launch it again. I'm going to open up my terminal, and you'll see now it says please enter a search term, and we'll type something in like WordPress. This is pretty popular. I'm going to hit enter, and this is going to take a while, so I will be back after this is done running. Now our new and improved scraper has finished running, and you can see that we whittled that down from 240 to 12. And if we open this up and look at this first one, you'll see this falls very well in line with what we were looking for. They want someone that's a web developer and designer, and we typed in WordPress, and I'm sure if we hover over here, we can see that WordPress does appear in there. So now that we have that, it really doesn't do us any good because we'd have to open up our debug tools and look through all this. So next, let's write all of these to a CSV file. In order to write these to the CSV file, we're going to import another NuGet package called CSV helper. So go back here to our terminal, and I've got a lot in here, so I'm just going to clear this. And we'll write .NET add package CSV helper. Now that we've added the NuGet package, let's go to the top of the file, and we'll import some dependencies. We'll say using system.io. Do another using system dot globalization, and we will import the CSV helper package. Now back down at the bottom of our file here, right above get HTML, I'm going to write another method, and we will say static void exports gigs to CSV. And what we'll do is we will pass in our list of page details. And we're also going to pass in the search term that will help name our files. Inside this method, we'll say using var writer equal to new stream writer. And here you're going to set your file path. Now I'm going to use some string interpolation, and I'm setting it to my file path, but you should set it to your personal file path. So say $@ so it's the literal /users /Robert Lewis /desktop, and then we're going to say search term underscore, and we'll do another interpolation, and we'll say date time dot now dot to file time. And then at the end, we're going to write dot CSV. And then right underneath that, we'll do another using statement. Say var CSV equal to new CSV writer. We'll pass it our writer that we initialized above, and we'll say culture info dot invariant culture. And then we'll just say CSV dot write records, and we will pass it our list of page details. Now that we've written our function, all we need to do is copy it. Let's take it up to main. Let's set this equal to var lst page details. And then let's call our export gig to CSV. Pass it our lst page details and our search term. And then I'm just going to run it, and once it's done, I will be right back. Okay, as you can see, I ran the scraper. I entered in the search term of WordPress, and it created the CSV on my desktop. So we'll go ahead and open it up, expand this a little bit, and you'll see that we have a good title, we have a good description, and if you scroll to the right, you will see that we have the URL in case you wanted to go check out this job on Craigslist. As you can see, it is duplicating the gigs. That's something we could have coded out, but in terms of this video, I'm not going to do that, just to try to keep this on the shorter side. So if you guys enjoyed this project, let me know. If you have any questions or concerns, you can put them in the comments below the video, and I will also link a GitHub repo to the code that we have coded out here today.